Welcome to our 6th mission. Today we're following Abraham's great-grandson, Joseph. And Joseph's family continued to dwell in the land of Canaan, specifically in Hebron. So we're going to go down there and investigate what happens in Hebron and the following locations after that. So let's go. So, at first glance, this may seem like an ordinary large family enjoying their meal, but let's take a closer look. Genesis 37, verse 3. Now Israel being another name for Jacob, Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. Maybe it's not right for Jacob to show favor toward one son over the others. However, what do you think of the brothers' reactions to this? They became jealous, angry. They could not say a kind word to Joseph. Do you think that was a right reaction? There are often times we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control our own attitude and how we react to it. Reacting in jealousy and anger brings motive for foolish choices that we would regret. Perhaps after a night, they will feel better about it and come to some reason. So let's spend the night and find out what happens in the morning. Oh, it's morning already. Oh, I hear a commotion. Let's go investigate what's happening. It sounds like Joseph had a dream. Let's hear what that's about. Go to chapter 37, verse 7. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood around about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. Now, obeisance here means to bow down. And his brethren said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us, or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it to his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. Now the 11 stars are his brothers. What about the sun and the moon? Who do those represent? Perhaps his father and mother. And let's see what their response is. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? So now not only his brothers have continued to hate him, but now his father is rebuking him. Is this a simple, prideful dream, or is there more to it? Is he dreaming simply from wishful thinking? Now he has this coat. He must be more important than even his father and mother. Perhaps there's more to it than that. Now, while Joseph's brothers go to tend to the flocks, Joseph is going to meet them out there. Let's get ahead of him and find out what his brothers are saying about him. Now, let's come down to verse 18. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said one to another, Behold, this dreamer cometh. Now therefore let us slay him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him. that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. So one of these brothers at least has care and compassion on Joseph. He doesn't want harm to come to him. He will give them this one chance to throw him into a pit and perhaps ease their revenge a little bit. But he wants him to go back to his father. He doesn't want to harm Joseph. But let's see, while Reuben heads off to go do something, let's see what his brothers do. Let's come down to verse 28. Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes. So Reuben was gone, and his brothers decided if they weren't going to get rid of him one way, they would get rid of him another. And they sold him into slavery. And these slavers, these merchantmen, took him to Egypt. Now we're going to leave Joseph and accelerate 2 years after this to the next major point in his life. He will serve 2 years as a slave, but let's find out what happens later on, 2 years from now. Let's be quiet. We are outside the Pharaoh's bedroom. Now it seems he's having a rough night. Let's find out what's going on. In Genesis 41. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed. And behold, he stood by a river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat-fleshed. So they were well-fed, fat, and they fed on a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and the lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke. Now he had a second dream, but it is very similar to this one, and he is disturbed by it. But from all this time, Joseph had interpreted 2 dreams from some Egyptians, and word had spread to Pharaoh that there was a dream interpreter. So of course, we come to verse 14. And then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself, changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. So he gets to speak to Pharaoh, this slave, brought from a dungeon to go before Pharaoh. Let's see where they are and what discussion they will have. Let's come to verse 29. And behold, there came 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine. And all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. So there will be 7 years of plenty of food, plenty of crops. And then there will be 7 years of no crops, complete devastation, no food in or out, no food growing that can be sent in it or out. Now, what will Pharaoh do? How will he prepare? Let's come down again to verse 41. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. So the slave, hated among his brothers, became second in command over a whole country, in charge of preparing them for a famine. Now, we're going to accelerate again and find out what his family is up to during this famine. It has apparently spread, not contained to Egypt alone, but also to the surrounding lands. And we come to chapter 42. Now when Jacob saw that there was corn in Egypt, Jacob said unto his sons, Why do ye look one upon another? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is corn in Egypt. Get you down thither and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. So his brothers are coming to Egypt. What will Joseph do when he sees them? He has power to make their lives as miserable as his were for 2 years. What will he do? Let's go to chapter 45 and verse 4. Verse 3. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I am Joseph. Doth my father yet live? And his brethren could not answer him, for they were troubled at his presence. And Joseph said unto his brethren, Come near to me, I pray you. And they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom ye sold into Egypt. Now therefore be not grieved, nor angry with yourselves, that ye sold me hither, for God did send me before you to preserve life. So here Joseph is not only forgiving them, but telling them to forgive themselves, to not be angry with their choice, with themselves for making this choice. This was a bad decision and a bad circumstance for Joseph, but God used it for good. They would have died had Joseph not gone to Egypt, and though his brothers may not have sent him there, sold him off, he may have gone there another way. Still, God used this to provide a way to save Joseph and his family, to continue to live and bring forth that promised seed that we are still waiting for, that will redeem all mankind and make things right. I think this is a great family reunion and a happy note to end on. We've learned what we can and seen what Joseph has done and what God has done through him. Let's return to the HQ and recap on what we've learned. From what we learned today, who was our main person of interest? That was Joseph. And where did our adventures begin? In Hebron, although it continued to Egypt. And what would describe the event that took place? We could say, in 2 words, betrayal and forgiveness. Or perhaps God preserving life. Something to that effect could do for describing the event. And now, agents, you have done good work. Mark the gray box for a mission accomplished. And until next time, farewell.